Welcome to the No Limits Podcast, where limits do not exist, where you can create cash flow, equity, and real freedom with the power of real estate.
3, 4. Now, we will begin.
Welcome to the dojo. The top 6 biggest mistakes real estate investors and wholesalers make when talking to motivated sellers, and how to fix them. That's the topic of today's show. Welcome to the No Limits Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is Todd Toback, and if this is your first time listening to the show, head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com. I have a copy of the No Limits Real Estate Investing Map. This is the massive action plan. And whether you're getting started or you're trying to build a team that operates your wholesaling business without you, this is the exact blueprint that will get you there. And it's my gift to you. So go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com and download it today. All right, so let's jump into the 6 biggest mistakes real estate investors and wholesalers make when talking to motivated sellers. And I'm going to show you how to fix these, but I can tell you right now that if you are doing this in your business, you are absolutely going to crush yourself. Now, knowing this, know that most people do this. Most investors are not trained and they're not listening to this podcast. So you are immediately going to give yourself a leg up on the competition. And most of these techniques that I'm going to talk about, or these mistakes, I address in the No Limits selling system. This is the system that I use to train my own acquisition specialists to lock up properties, and the system that I've used to train the most successful investors around the country. So if you want to know more about the system, go to nolimitssalessystem.com to get more detail on this training. I'm going to give you a lot today, some great flavor and some very, very actionable tools that you can use today. All right, so fatal flaw number 1 is that new investors and wholesalers, when they first start out, they act like they are inferior to their prospect, right? They're like, yes, sir, maybe, sir. Will you please sell your house to me, ma'am? I'm a really, really nice person and I have really nice postcards and you could call my references. And they're basically begging to do business with the seller, right? They are trying to have this like customer service role. And as soon as you do this, the game is over, right? The seller is going to feel that, they're going to smell that, and you are never going to be able to negotiate a good deal for yourself. So immediately you have to understand that you are not in an inferior position. As a matter of fact, you could make an argument that you are in a superior position because you are offering a solution to their problem, right? They are in the quicksand and you are not going to jump in that quicksand, but you are going to throw them a rope and pull them out. So this is very, very important to realize. People have gotten themselves in bad situations. And so what we do is solve problems. And if we talk to a seller and we could find a way to make a profit, right, we are going to help you. Now, if I can't find a way to make a profit, Mr. Seller, I'm sorry, but we're not a match, right? And I can refer you to a real estate agent or someone who else may be able to help you. But again, if we can find a way to work together and I could find a way to make a profit, I'd be glad to be able to do business today. So very, very important. Understand that you are not in an inferior position. You always want to communicate that you are eager to do a deal, but only on your terms, meaning that you're enthusiastic about doing business, but it has to be for the right price and the right terms. And if those happen, then you too can do business. This is very, very, very important. Now, how do you get into this really non-inferior position? And really, I'm going to talk about some techniques here that you could use in the next 5 fatal flaws. But again, communicate often that you are an investor and you are here to make a profit, not in a rude way, but that you are here to solve problems, and that if you guys can have a meeting of the minds and you can buy at the right price, then you'd be glad to do business. All right, number 2. Many investors and wholesalers, when they first start out, they want to appeal to the seller's emotions, and they don't want to tell the seller that they are an investor and trying to make a profit. So they act like they're going to live in the property, right? They say, oh, well, me and my wife or me and my spouse or, me and my brother were looking for a place. Maybe we'll live in it. Maybe it'll be an investment. I'm not really sure, right? I could tell you this is a fatal flaw, right? Immediately puts you in a bad position because you are not going to find out the seller's needs, right? You're going to be talking and trying to make your case. And really, you're also lying. And whenever you lie, this puts you in a very, very weak position. You feel weak. Let's just call it like it is, right? You are weak because you're not learning the system and you are not learning the techniques needed, okay, to tell the truth. And if you're doing this business the right way, you should tell the truth and you will make more money, right? So very, very important. So don't act like you're going to live in the property or that, you and your brother are going to, fix it up and sell it for a profit if you're not, right? If you're going to fix it up yourself with your brother, I'm sure, you can say that. But again, you have to buy at a right price and don't say things that aren't true to try to appeal to the seller's emotions. That's very, very important, right? You're an investor, you're here to buy at a profit, and you can solve at a problem. Number 3, and this is a doozy, letting the seller control the conversation. All right. So if you are on the phone with a seller and you lose control, and losing control, what this feels like and looks like if they start peppering you with questions and now you are on the defense. So if they say, "Who is this? What company do you work for? How much could you give me for the property? What's your website?" Right? "How long have you been in business?" And all of a sudden now you are on the defense of and saying, "Oh, Mr. Seller, I'm a great guy. This is my website and I've been in business for 10 years and I have this really great logo and I'm really nice." Right? You are again totally on the defense, and when you are not asking questions and listening, okay, you're not gaining information. When the seller's in control, they're the ones gaining information. You don't know if they're motivated, and I can tell you when you lose control of a conversation, it is really a feeling that sucks, right? It's not an enjoyable to be on the phone and in acquisition mode or sales mode, whatever that is when the seller controls the conversation. And so you must gain control of the conversation. So how do you fix this? Well, you fix this using a technique that I talk about in the No Limits sales system called the redirect. Okay. And the redirect is when you, number one, ask questions. But if a seller asks you a question that takes you off your game, takes you off where you're going, you just want to respond with a question, right? So if a seller says, "Well, how quick can you close?" Say, "Mr. Seller, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Is there a particular a date that you're looking to close on? Or is there a particular reason why you're looking to close, on a specific date?" Right? And then listen. Shh. Control. The less you talk, okay, the more money that you will make, right? A seller may say, "Well, how long have you been in business?" And you could say, "Great question, Mr. Seller. We've been doing business for, 5 years or 10 years, or we've been, or I just started, right? Let me ask you, Mr. Seller, is there a particular reason why you asked me that, right? Why is that important to you, right?" Now, you want to say it in a non-confrontational way, right? But you want to hear why the seller is asking that question. So they may say, "Well, I don't know. There's a lot of scams out there, and I heard about these, overseas scams of people trying to take money out of your bank account, and I just don't want to be one of those." So I would respond, "Okay, Mr. Seller, I totally understand that. Let me, and I'm not sure if we're a fit yet. I'm not sure if I can really buy this house at a price I can make a profit. But let me ask you a question. What would make you comfortable that we're real?" And then stay quiet, right? And maybe they just want to meet face to face. So ask the question, gain control. Or maybe just one other technique I'll throw in here is saying, "Can we just slow down for a second, Mr. Seller? I'm not 100% sure I want to buy this property yet. I have to ask you some more questions. So if we could just pump the brakes for a minute and I just got to gather some more information, then I'd be glad to tell you a little bit more about what we do," right? So get control of the conversation, ask questions, redirect, okay? And then, okay, move the conversation to where you want it to go. So hopefully that's to a contract. All right, number 4 is letting the seller say they need XYZ for the property and assume the conversation is over. So whenever I'm training new acquisition specialists, they say, "Oh, the seller says they need $150,000." And they're like, "That's it, it's over." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I've never met a seller who says they want $150,000, but they would take 100, right? Do not be scared to negotiate with a seller after they give you an initial price. Many sellers will tell you what they quote unquote need, but the truth is they don't have that money in their hands today, right? And so they don't need it because they don't have it today. So if you can give them a solution or some cash, or maybe not as much as they want, or maybe get close to that, you maybe can still do business. Whenever a seller tells me that they want more than I can pay, or they're not flexible on terms, I don't believe that, right? If I believe that, I would be out of business. And I could tell you that many wholesalers, they stop at that first no, or that first, this is the lowest I will take. So number one, here's what I would do, right? Offer the seller, say, Mr. Seller, I'm not sure if I could do this, but what if I could offer you $110,000? I know that you're asking for 150, but would you even entertain $110,000 or probably not, right? And then just listen, right? Hear what they say, and they may wince and they may moan, or may say, no, there's no way, right? And then just listen some more and say, okay, well, what if I could pay, I don't know, anywhere from 110 to 120. I mean, would you even consider something at 120? I mean, what would be the lowest that you'd consider? And then let them talk. And then if they don't come down from that 150 and you're at like that 110, 120, you could say, look, Mr. Seller, it looks like we've got a gap here, right? I was at this 110, I was kind of pushing at this, maybe a little bit more. Is there a number besides 150 that you can live with? Let's see if we can come to a meeting of the mind. I wish I could pay 150, but I just can't, right? I just can't do that and make a profit. Do you have some flexibility here, right? And push. Do not accept the no. Envision the price that you want and keep asking. Now, this does not mean that you're going to get it, but I can 100% guarantee you this. If you don't ask, you will not get. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. If you do not ask, you will not get. So you won't get it every time, but I guarantee you that you won't get it if you never ask. Okay, so you've got to keep pushing. Now, let's say that you can't get this house under the price, at a price at which you want, and the seller at a higher price. First of all, I try to get belly to belly if I smelled motivation there. But if the motivation is not there yet, or you smell it brewing, or they're not willing to take the price, what I would do is you need to follow up at least every 3 to 4 days, right? Follow up by text message, by video, by a written offer in the mail, and make it happen, because this will change. I remember I had a seller who rejected our initial offer, and he was like, no way, no how, forget it. And he said, no, 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 right? 8 weeks after that initial no, I texted him and I said, hey, are you still there? Do you want to take it? Boom, sold me the place. I made $86,000, right? The fortune is in the follow-up. If I would have taken that first no, I wouldn't have made that money. Imagine that you've spent some money in marketing and that marketing campaign has not generated a deal yet, and you stopped following up. And you're like, oh man, this business stinks, right? I didn't get a deal. I'm going broke. And you didn't get that one deal because you didn't follow up. And then you just did that one move, right? That one question, that one follow-up, and now you got a deal that made you $86,000. Does that change the marketing campaign? Does that change your business? You bet it does, right? That is the difference between pros and amateurs. Do not be an amateur, be a professional. You've got to have a system. You've got to know your craft, and you have to follow up like an absolute maniac. That is where the money is, getting past no, right? Do not accept a seller's first word. And I'm telling you, that is an absolute fatal flaw. All right, let's talk about the fatal flaw number 5, right? The biggest mistake and what to do. And that is chasing the deal. Now, in sales, they call this commission breath, right? When you chase a deal and you chase a seller and they feel like you want it more than they want to sell it, they are going to run the other way. I always talk about my dog, Molly, that I had when we were a kid, and she used to run out the door. Really, really sweet dog. But she used to run out to the street, and every time I chased Molly, she would run down to Lindell School in Long Beach, New York. And I used to have to chase her around the park, and she used to run around. It was impossible for me to catch her until one day I realized that when Molly ran out the front door is I just had to run the other direction and she would chase me and I would get her back into the house. So once I realized that, I never had to chase Molly down to the park again and was never scared of her getting hit by a car. So let's not have your business get hit by a car. Do not chase sellers, right? You must basically have the sellers feel like they need you more than you need them. So you want the ability to walk away from a deal. Do not beg, do not plead. If a seller wants to do business with you, okay, then it has to be on your terms, right? Now you can negotiate and they can win, but just underneath, make sure, right? When I say win, I mean in their minds, but make sure it's a price that is acceptable to you. Be willing to walk away at any time. You want to be friendly, but you also want to be apathetic of the deal. So what I do is one of the things that we use is reluctance. It's a technique in the no limits selling system. Again, if you want to know more about that, go to nolimitsalessystem.com. And we're reluctant, saying, Mr. Seller, look, if this is not a fit for you, right, it is totally okay to say no. Right? If this is not enough for you and you want to list with a real estate agent, that's totally okay. I can give you a name of 3 agents and my feelings will not be hurt. Right? Or I'll say, Mr. Seller, I sense some tension here, right? If I'm making you uncomfortable or, maybe I'm not the right option, will you just tell me? Right? So say that and give the seller permission to say no, right? Or you may say, Mr. Seller, look, you're really, really nice and you've got a great property here, but I just can't buy this deal if I can't make a profit at these numbers right here. I just can't do it, right? And so you want to use those techniques and the emotions, and you want to be able to back away from a deal being friendly, right? Not condescending or rough, right? But just back away and friendly, but you do not need the deal. You are reluctant. Do not chase the deal. Have the seller chase you. And if at any point you feel like you're chasing the deal, use those techniques that I just talked about. All right, let's talk about number 6 and let's wrap up. Number 6 is not getting commitments. And I can't tell you how often I talk about this, but I talk about it a lot because it's so important. At the end of every conversation with a seller, you need to have a very next action. The seller needs to know what they need to do, and you need to know what you need to do. Then you guys talk about what you agreed to do and then follow up. So many times I see new investors, they get on the phone and they say, I'll call you next week, right? And I could tell you that they keep calling next week and calling next week and calling next week and calling next week, and the seller just kicking the can down the road. So what you have to do is you have to set the process in the mind with the seller and take the seller down the path that they want to go. So have them define what the very next step is, state it back to them in painful detail, right? And then follow up on that commitment on the time and date that you both agreed to. Now, sometimes a seller will not commit under any circumstances. So in that case, commit what you will do next and communicate that with a seller. But very, very, very important is that you want to get commitments from a seller. And when you do that, right, sometimes we're scared to get a seller to commit to something, right? Because we're scared of what they're going to say. And sometimes it's going to flush out an objection like, Mr. Seller, let me ask you, you said that you had to talk to someone, right? What has to happen during that conversation? Well, my sister and I have to agree on a price. Okay. Well, has there been any kind of disagreement on price in the past? Well, yeah, she wants to list with a real estate agent and I want to sell to an investor. Okay. Well, how serious is she about listing with an agent? Well, I can tell you there's no way in heck that she's going to sell for this price. So I'm not sure if she's going to do it. So you see, right then and there, when I asked the commitment from a seller, I actually got more information. So very, very, very important. Again, I talk about this all in the No Limit Selling System. You can head on over to nolimitsalesystem.com, or you can string together some of that information on this podcast. But I hope you enjoyed and you also implement, okay, these top 6 fatal flaws that new investors make when talking to motivated sellers and how to fix them. All right. Listen to this, fix them, lock up some deals, make some money, build your net worth. And if you have not been to our site, NoLimitsRealEstateInvesting.com, download the map. And if you have not shared this with your friends or colleagues, copy and paste the link to today's show and text it to 3 or 4 people who you think might need to hear it. Talk to you soon.